Let's keep it real for a second. The Xiaomi Mi Mix 2 was a great phone, but it wasn't quite the success that many people thought it could have been, and the reason is quite simple. It was a flagship phone without a flagship phone camera. Now, the Xiaomi Mi Mix 2S is exactly trying to get this right this time. And since this is just a preview and this is just an iterative update, I won't go over everything, but just important parts like the camera, obviously. And the few little design changes, because obviously, if you have seen it already somewhere, you know that they have a completely different approach to a bezel-less phone. So pretty much nothing at the top, but a little bit of a bezel at the bottom. In my opinion, it's still the best possible way you can do it, at least from my personal standpoint, because as you can see, the phone is noticeably shorter than most other 6 inches with 2x1. It therefore is a little bit thicker, but it also has quite the big battery. But it feels great, and they actually did a few changes over the two, because it's ever so slightly narrower, but a little bit taller, and I think just a little bit thicker. But I have to say, it feels for some reason noticeably different. Yes, it's still a little bit slippery on the sides, even though I like this back because it's for me quite grippy, but the sides are still quite slippery, and it's not the thinnest phone, so it's not quite as easy to hold on to. But otherwise, the build quality I think is probably the best one, and I think I will actually give this one 5 gold stars the first time on any phone, because the execution, the transitions everywhere are so smooth. There is no gap, there is no imperfection. Buttons click so nicely, but kind of subtle, but still clicky. Fingerprint reader is one amongst the best. As you can see here, it unlocks very fast, and everything else is just done so great. The notification LED is actually at the bottom, and yes, the camera as well, even though I have to say, when I used it this time, I actually got used to it quite quickly. And before you get disturbed, this is just the theme. It's not a different launcher or anything, and in the review I will use the stock theme. This was just because, I don't like the default theme, but built-in design absolutely great. The display, I would say, is pretty much the same as last year, so it's a very nice display, but it's simply not the very best one. It's quite nice and sharp, they calibrated it quite nice, so fully satisfying in this price range, absolutely what you would expect. The speaker, also the same as last year, so also a very good one, not the very best one, but it's at least dual speaker and a quite good one. Performance, now this has improved. Why? Because it's using the Snapdragon 845, which is great. I really love that chipset. It's smooth, it's consistent, there's pretty much no lag at all. Transitions are all great. No. This is not just because of that, it's just if you launch this app from the home screen the first time, because as you can see here, it is fast. But it actually is not quite as fast as some other Android Oreo devices because of the animations, because as you can see, there is always this transition, and some phones on Oreo just skip that entirely. But super smooth, super consistent, and it is a noticeable step up from the 835. I have to just give it to that. Everything feels lighter, smoother, and even just better. But I don't want to get too much into that. Battery, it was already good last year, actually very good for me, and I hope to see pretty much the same thing as well, because the 845 seems, from what I know from the Xperias this year, about as efficient as last year, so high hopes. Software, I'm not going into that, that's for the review, but one thing that I want to get into is the actual camera software, because now we have this silly little mode called AI, and in the demos or in the samples I will show you why. Because if it detects something, as you can see here, it usually would show this is a plant or something. Since this is not a plant, it doesn't see it as a plant. But sometimes it sees, maybe, I don't know. It doesn't really recognize a lot of stuff, and I'm not going into all the rest, but it doesn't recognize a lot of stuff. But what it recognizes, it always seems to just do one thing: boost the colors. Let me show you what I mean. Now, this is low light. It's okay, but the Sony Xperia XZ did a better job here because it's not great. Now this, and I would overall say it is a step up from last year, but I'm not quite sure if it's an absolute total flagship camera. I need a little bit more time with it, but the shots with extreme lighting conditions, because it was a little bit of a weird angle of the sun, it produces nice shots, and next time I will try to get rid of this for sure, because the watermark is something I don't need. But as you can see, clarity, sharpness, and colors are fine, but colors are the one thing, especially with the AI mode, which in some cases here was on. But the thing is, if it doesn't recognize an object, in AI mode it just doesn't do much. But now, for example, it sees plants here. This is what it does in AI mode. So as you can see, bam, It just boosts the colors, and this does for pretty much everything. If it recognizes a house, it boosts the house. Here once again, it boosts the colors, and I don't think this is natural at all. Not at all. The HDR mode I still like, and in many cases actually, if it doesn't know what to do in AI mode, it just uses HDR. This is what it seems like to me, but otherwise focus was very good, very consistent, very reliable, and we get nice sharp objects. And as you can see here, it saw a building, boom, and it boosts the whole picture. So I'm not quite sure what AI is all about in that regard. I don't know. But yeah, I need a little bit more time, but it seems, yeah, here once again, planned, boosted. But this is completely crazy what the front-facing cam does. It overexposes pretty much every picture. And in the exact same conditions, I did a test with 2 other phones, and none of them nearly had overexposed pictures like this. This is just way too bright, way too pale. Sometimes if you get it right, when it, and of course we have the bokeh mode that, yes, you can see here, it's not perfect. No, it's not. Same as the bokeh mode on the main camera. Xiaomi and, for example, Nokia have not figured out how to do that. And yeah, the front-facing cam itself isn't the best one. It's okay. I think it's just a 5 megapixel actually. Yeah, low light, yeah, not their strength. But let's go into video just real quick. 4K. It's nicely stabilized, I would have to say, even though 1080 actually stabilizes a little bit more, but I will show this in the review. But it seems smooth, a little bit wobbly. Autofocus though really great. And I have to say that besides the artifacting that they could actually get rid of, or if you use a different app where you can set a higher bitrate, the picture quality seems really good. There are better ones, yes, flagships deliver sometimes still better video cams, but it's definitely a noticeable step up. But it's, for example, here the autofocus that you will see in a second. Not yet, not yet. Okay, here. Look at how seamless this is. Zip, zip. Okay, it's a little bit abrupt. I would wish for actually something a little bit more subtle. But yeah, I'm not gonna complain about an abrupt but very reliable one. So let's cover all the categories once again to keep it, yeah, halfway decently short. Design. One of the best after all, personally. For me, it's a little bit too white, but the weight is nice. It's exactly the right one, but the build quality, the best I have experienced it, at least in terms along with the design. I love it. The display is super nice. The speaker is very good. The performance is great. Pretty much the best along with the Xperia XZ2, which are the only Snapdragon 845 devices here at the moment. Then the battery life should be very good. I'm not quite so sure about that yet, though. The software, MIUI, still not actually a global ROM, but it uses already 8.0, or maybe this is actually even using 8.1, but I don't think so. Let me actually check that. It's 8.0, yeah. But global will come soon enough. No band 20? Nah, no, it is. It has band 20, so all good is here. You have to import it though, but I actually have no idea what it costs because I completely forgot to check it up. So check the link down there below and you will know. But for example, someone asked me he can get the Xiaomi Mi Mix 2 for 280 euros. I'm not quite sure where he found it that cheap. And the Mi Mix 2S for 480 euros. And I told him, unless he really needs a little bit of a better camera, I wouldn't really pay 200 more because it's still just an iterative update. Everything was already great on the Mi Mix 2 because pretty much what they improved was the performance, design, minimally. Nothing to really talk about. And then the camera. But if that's worth 200, I would say no. Especially for 280 now. The Mi Mix 2S, for someone who doesn't need the best camera, is still a killer deal. But, yeah.